Hey guys, Jason Scudellari here, and I'm in our very own In the Garage Media Tech Center, where we got our 64 Chevelle. It's a project car for all Chevy Performance, and we're pretty excited to get started on it. It's been sitting for about 5+ years, and what we want to do is get it back up and running, and then in the future do even more things to it. I've already done a once over on the car, and it looks like the brakes have maybe been updated not too long ago, so we're not going to concentrate on that. Really what I want to concentrate are the mechanics of the engine. I know I'm not going to try to start it yet just because I want to do some of the basics. So let me show you a few potential issues that we could have with the car that I want to address first. One thing is the cooling system. The lines are hard and they're crusty, so I'm definitely going to address the whole cooling system from the water pump to the radiator to hoses. We're going to give it a basic tune-up. So wires, plugs. We also got an alternator, carburetor, fuel pump, but you know, instead of just replacing everything at once, let's do the basics, see if it fires up, and then if we need to add things, we'll do it then. So I've gone to AutoZone Pro and ordered a bunch of Duralast parts, that way I have them on hand. They're OE quality or better. I know they're gonna fit properly. I know they're gonna function like they should, that way we get back on the road. So the first thing we're gonna do is get the car up on the lift so I can drain the coolant. I'm pulling the radiator cap off just to open it up so some air can get in there so it drains a little quicker, but as you can see, the petcock's pretty plugged up, so we're gonna let it drain a little bit before I pull the hose off just to eliminate too big of a mess. You know, the good thing is that it's got some coolant in there, but it's fairly clean. The water pump looked like it was leaking a little bit at the seat hole on the bottom, so definitely gonna change that out, and while we're there, we might as well do a thermostat and for sure hoses. I'm gonna lower the car down and put the bucket back under it and start pulling hoses. I was doing so good. Oh. Who knew the water was just gonna be all right there? Guess it was full. This is just gonna be my catch-all. Keep everything clean. I know this battery isn't any good because I kind of tried to crank it over real quick just to see if it would. So it's dead, so let's just go ahead and pull the battery out real quick, and that way it'll give me a little easier access to the radiator bolts. Our car was equipped with an automatic transmission, so before pulling out the radiator, make sure you undo your transmission lines. Okay. So this has obviously got an aftermarket bracket system for the alternator, and I'm hoping that our stock replacement water pump will have the same bosses needed to replace everything back as is, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to take it apart. These belts out here, we'll replace those. Since we got an aftermarket bracket setup for our alternator, I'm gonna have to bring this belt down to an AutoZone so I can match it up. The one that I ordered for a stock bracket setup, and obviously that will not work. I like to keep everything in order. Part OCD, and part I don't think about it when I put it back on. So I'm gonna go ahead and take the alternator bracket and alternator off. At this time, I'm just gonna take the alternator off and replace it. I don't know how many miles are on it. I don't even know if it works, but alternators are cheap enough, and the quality of the Duralast stuff will just benefit us. But I do have to take the brackets off because it is part of the bolts that hold the water pump on. God, this stuff's tight. I'm gonna go ahead and pull the air cleaner off, just get out of the way so I can get to the back of this alternator. Okay, next up we're gonna pull these two top bolts out. That should get our brackets out of there. Yeah, this hose, as you can see, is just falling apart. It's definitely seen better days. Water pump's coming out. So one of the cool things about the Duralast water pump, it already comes coated. So that way you don't have to worry about painting it and you don't have to worry about it rusting. But the first thing I'm gonna do is just add a little RTV sealant. Also gonna add a little bit to the gasket before I put it on there. Get these started. All right, let me get this top one going now. I'm gonna try to put this bracket on right now too. So now we're gonna go ahead and change the thermostat out, put a new gasket on there. These usually are held on there pretty good. They've been on there for a long time, but not this one. So, you know, all the water that came out of the radiator was really clear, but this is obviously where it's been sitting up on top for a while. I mean, it's not bad, but I'm definitely glad we're changing the thermostat out. You never know, it could be stuck. I'll go ahead and clean that up and get that back on there. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and put the new thermostat in there. I've chosen a 180-degree thermostat just because the weather in California, it seems to work best for us. Okay, so this gasket, we don't need to add any silicone to because it's already got a silicone bead on it. All right, so we're getting the front wrapped up, but before I get too carried away, I want to pull the spark plug wires and the plugs out. Wow, look at that. They actually don't look so bad. We'll change them anyway. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and replace the cap and rotor. All right. All right, there we go.
Take it up for me. You keep forgetting that you're doing this for photo and video.
So a lot of times they will tell you that the plugs come pre-gapped. The problem with that is if someone's dropped the box or anything like that, you close the gap up and you go put it in, it's not going to fire very well. So we're going to gap them at 35 thousandths and install them. We're getting close. Should make it a little easier. All right, so it's time to go to the plug wires. These are all pretty easy. We got 4 of the same length here. Fire in order, clockwise at 18436572, starting right here with number 1. We're gonna route this up around here. Pretty long. All right, so that wraps up our little basic tune-up, spark plugs, wires, cap, and rotor. We're gonna go ahead and put the pulley and the spacer and the fan on, and we can go ahead and put the radiator in. All right, so I went ahead and sent the radiator out and had it flush and pressure checked, and everything was A-OK on it. So we're gonna go ahead and use this stock copper brass one and get it installed. We will switch out the radiator cap though. All right, so we're just gonna go ahead and we're gonna swap out the alternator. We're not gonna mess around with that. Get everything kind of snugged up, and we'll go ahead and put the new belts on there. I think the other belt was just a little stretched out, came off a little easier. All right. There we go. We got to plug up the top hole on the water pump. It actually comes with the water pump, so it's not something you're going to have to go out and buy. I like to use a little thread sealant on there. And this is an MPT plug, so as you start tightening it up, it will get tighter because the threads start to get bigger. There we go. With that in, let's go ahead and tackle the lower hose. Let's go ahead and get this bottom hose on there. I got the clamps on so that way I can tighten them up easy. There's that. Let's go ahead and get these heater hoses off, put some new heater hoses on there. There we go, and then pour a little water on the cameraman's foot. All right, cut that off straight first. And I'm gonna have that just like that. Fits like it should. go.
Shot from where
There we go. All right. So onto the fuel filter. That's going to tell us a lot. I checked the tank and it was bone dry. So hopefully that meant the car was almost out of gas when it was parked and we're going to be good. But I have a feeling the carburetor is probably going to be all gummed up. But we won't know until we get there. But I'm going to take this filter off real quick and see if there's any gunk in it. Kind of clean. A couple little things in there, but not much. So let's go ahead and throw a filter on there. We'll throw a clear one on there. That way we can see what's coming in there, and hopefully we don't see a bunch of gunky gunk. All right. I mean, a good tip would normally be warm the car up before draining the oil to thin it out a little bit to get it flowing. But in our case, we're just trying to get the car started. There we go. That's promising. Doesn't even look that bad either. You know, a lot of these older style engines had a cartridge style oil filter, so let's see if I can do this without making a terrible mess. All right, that's not so bad. There it is. Check. Nothing really coming out of there. I mean, I don't know what's inside the filter because I can't really see, but cool. All right, there we go. I added some oil to it. Hopefully it doesn't start draining out on me. I'm keeping the bottom bolt tight against the canister. We are getting close. Put some of this 91 in there. Hopefully we'll get some fuel up to the carburetor if the fuel pump is working. If not, we'll throw a fuel pump in it. But we won't know until we try. Alrighty, let's try this. It just won't stay. I wonder if the solenoid's going out. Sounds like it. Well, I don't know if we have a bad solenoid or not, but we'll go ahead and swap the starter out real quick and see what happens. We could probably pull the starter out and test it, but I already got a starter here, so I'm just gonna throw one in. Enough room to get these things out. All right, there it is. Let's bring it over to the table and compare it to the other one we have. There we go. So, as you can see, there's quite a bit difference. This is a mini high torque starter, weighs quarter of the weight. They work really, really good. So hopefully swapping this out will fix all our issues and this should be a lot easier to install. Alrighty, let's give this another shot. New starter's installed. Is there... Wow. I want to check a few things, but darn, that sounds pretty good and fired up pretty easily for a car that's been down for a while. Well, just checking to make sure there's no fuel leaks or oil leaks. I didn't get a chance to check the oil pressure gauge to see if there was any oil pressure. I think the next step really would be to pull it outside, let it warm up, and double check the coolant level again. If we need to add water, we will, but you know, time it and maybe drive it.
go. Runs pretty smooth. I think we did something right. We got a car that's been down and out for 5+ years and got it back on the road. It's cool to have AutoZone Pro that I can call up and get the Duralast product. You know, it's an OEM spec or better. It's got the reliability, it's got the fit, it's got the function, everything you're gonna need to be confident to get the car down the road, and you know, we can move on to that next step finally. And although it's driving well, I noticed the steering wheel is, you know, clocked at, you know, 45-degree angle, so we probably need to do some steering upgrades. The brakes seem to fit, you know, feel all right, but I noticed a little tranny leak, so we'll probably get back in there and get a pan gasket and a new filter. You know, take the next step with this car so we can take it on longer trips. But I feel good. We got a car back to life after 5+ years, and here it is sitting idling at a light. Temperature looks good, oil pressure looks good, and well, we brought a '64 Chevelle. It's back on the road.